Okay. We'll begin a new chapter. This chapter is going to be about the rest of the world during the Cold War. So outside of Europe and the United States during the Cold War, 1945 to 1993, say. And well, let's start in India. Brief history of India. We know that, and again, this isn't the deep history, this is just the last few hundred years. India had been a colony of Britain for the British East India Trade Company for over 100 years. Before that, there was competition to see who was going to rule India. We know that the Portuguese and the French and the Dutch and the English all had different little trading colonies around India. But by the time World War I came, and this is going to be the map for World War I, we know that England, which is pink, who had the largest empire, ruled India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Burma, Australia, a massive, massive empire. And England and India was the most populous of all of those colonies. Well, we have learned that there had been a slow movement to get the British out of India for 50 plus years. That Gandhi was the most recent leader in this movement in the time between the wars, with his ideas of peaceful protest as a way to get the British to leave. It does not work in the time between World War I and World War II. But we're going to see that immediately following World War II, 2 years after the war, the British give up control over India. They say, look, we don't want any more colonies. It's not just in India. We're going to find that around the world, the British and the French, who once were the most powerful countries in the world. I mean, maybe Germany had a moment in the spotlight, but for 100 plus years before that, it was England and France. They had all these colonies. They're going to give them up. Too expensive. They had to focus on rebuilding. So a guy named Jawaharlal Nehru, excuse my mispronunciations, became the first leader of India. Gandhi was older. Gandhi really was his time period where he was the main guy was in the time between the wars. And he worked with Nehru, so they knew each other. And Nehru wanted to copy the British Labour Party's ideas, okay? And the British Labour Party is arguably a socialist government, like middle of the road socialism. He wanted a parliamentary government with elections, and he wanted a socialist economy. He wanted the government to control the major industries, so big business, your oil, your coal, your gas, your drilling, the big industries. He wanted the government to control the utilities, like, I don't know, DWP controls the utilities here in Los Angeles. We're talking electricity, water, basics, and transportation, right? Like the MTA, buses, rail. And they have more rail there than we do here. So really, what's the difference between our government and this traditional socialist government? Isn't utilities or transportation, it is the major industries. And we know that in America, we have oil companies who are for profit, who make huge money, and coal and natural gas and solar now, all that kind of stuff. But at the local level, he'd want people to be able to own businesses on Main Street. He wanted people to be able to own their own farms. He wasn't trying to collectivize farms or take them over like in Soviet Union or China or Southeast Asia. And he didn't want to have the government own all the businesses like the Soviet model. He said, hey, you guys start your own business. Just the big ones will control. After his death, we're going to find that the leaders slowly start to privatize the industries, allow for for-profit companies to come in and take over some of these industries for the government. And one thing we know is that, I mentioned ExxonMobil, right, owns a lot of the oil companies in America. BP, British Petroleum, owns a lot of the oil companies in Britain, and they make a lot of money. And the profit that they make is used for their business. In India, or in this style of socialist government, the profit that they make would be used for the people to do things like, well, in Britain, the Labour Party would say, give free healthcare. That's one reason why they cut back on their colonies, was because they wanted to focus on now giving the people more stuff, like free healthcare. In Britain, everyone gets free healthcare. That was a big part of their post-World War II plans. And one thing we know is that today, India has the second largest population in the world, only to China, like by a long shot. These guys are both over 1 billion. It's like India, China, 1.3, 1.2 billion, both really close. The second largest, I think, I'm not 100% on this one, but it's around 400 million people. And the United States has 330 million. We're in that range. I'm not sure exactly who comes, what the 3, 4, 5 numbers are, but we're close. But still, that's 1 billion people less than India and China. These two are by far the most populous countries in the world today. Well, one interesting thing that happens as soon as India splits, that India becomes independent, is that India splits. So let's look at this map. Historically, all of this area that's not gray, or even these dark gray areas, were India, okay, under British rule. And as soon as they split, well, now we're going to briefly discuss that in India, there's 2 major religions. There are Muslims and there are Hindu. And it's been this way for 1,000 years, okay, ever since the Islamic Empire's growth of the 700 to 1000 AD period. They had spread, the Islamic Empire had spread into the area of Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, both border Pakistan. These are Muslim countries, right? And India had historically been Hindu since the BC era, like 500 BC or something. And there was a little pocket here of Islam Muslim people as well in what they call East Pakistan. So this country is going to split into 2 countries. We're going to have West and East Pakistan, and in southern and central India, they will be Hindu India. Okay, this is now a major development. Gandhi was like, no, please don't do this because it's going to cause fighting. One of the things that happens is there's a mass migration. So all of the Muslims who lived in this part of India, they're going to move either to West Pakistan or to East Pakistan, and all of the Hindu that live in this area, Bengal is a very Hindu area, they're going to move to India, to India proper. And during this migration, you give up everything you ever worked for. You have to leave, and now you have this split, right? Where we're no longer are we friends? Our neighbors, we're all friends. We're all, who cares what religion we are? We're angry at the Brits for ruling us, right? Now it's like we're angry at each other because there's this divide in the land, and people died during this period of splitting and migrating and figuring out your new areas. There's also a major religion, one of the world's major religions, called Sikhism. Okay, so if we look at the world's major religions, just for fun, it's Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, 3, 4. I'm not sure where they fall, but I think like 6 is Sikhism. It's a major religion. Okay, and let's find out.